Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Ashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Prabhupada ki Hare Krishna. Okay. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1, verse 28-29. Okay, verse 28 is on the board. Kita pesha krita ruda Kodayayam tam anusmaran Samramba Bhaya Yogena Vindate tat svarupatam Kita peshakrita ruda Kodayayam tam anusmaran Samramba Bhaya Yogena Vindate tat svarupatam Kita pesha krita ruda Udayam tam anushmaram Vindate tat svarupatam Kita pesha krita rudam Manusmaram Sarupatam Kita pesha krita rudam Kodayayam tam manusmaram Okay, now I'm going to read verse 29 there together. Evam Krishna Bhagavati Maya Manuja Ishvare Vairena Puta Papmanas Tamapur Anuchintaya. Okay, word by word. Kita, the grassworm. The grassworm. Peshakrita, by a bee. Ruda, confined. Kudayayam, in a hole, in a wall. Tam, dead bee. Anusmaran, thinking of. Samramba, Bhaya Yogena, through intense fear and enmity. Fear and enmity. Vindate, attains. Tat, of that bee. Svarupatam, the same form. Evam, thus. Krishna, in Krishna. Bhagavati, the personality of Godhead. Maya Manuje, who appeared by his own energy in his eternal human-like form. Ishvare, the Supreme. Vairena, by enmity. Puta Papmana, those purified of sins. Tam, him. Apu, attained. Anuchintaya, by thinking of. Oh, I forgot to say. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. A grassworm confined in a hole of a wall by a bee always thinks of the bee in fear and enmity, and later becomes a bee simply because of such remembrance. Similarly, if the conditioned souls somehow or other think of Krishna, who is Satchitananda Vigraha, they will become free from their sins. Whether thinking of him as their worshipable Lord or an enemy, because of constantly thinking of him, they will regain their spiritual bodies. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 4.10, the Lord says, Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mam upashrita bahavo jnana tapasa putamat bhavam agata. Being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. There are two ways of constantly thinking of Krishna, as a devotee and as an enemy. A devotee, of course, by his knowledge and tapasya, becomes free from fear and anger and becomes a pure devotee. Similarly, an enemy, although thinking of Krishna inimically, thinks of him constantly and also becomes purified. This is confirmed elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 9.30, where the Lord says, Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak sadur eva samantavya samyak vyavasito hisa. Even if one commits the most sinful, abominable actions, if he engages in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. A devotee undoubtedly worships the Lord with rapt attention. Similarly, if an enemy, Sudurachara, always thinks of Krishna, he also becomes a purified devotee. The example given here concerns the grassworm that becomes bee-like because of constantly thinking of the bee that forces it to enter a hole. By always thinking of the bee in fear, the grassworm starts to become a bee. This is a practical example. Lord Krishna appears within this material world for two purposes: paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya cha dushkritam, to protect the devotees and annihilate the demons. The sadhus and devotees certainly think of the Lord always, but dushkritis, the demons like Kamsa and Shishupal, also think of Krishna in terms of killing him. By thinking of Krishna, both the demons and devotees attain liberation from the clutches of material Maya. This verse uses the word Maya Manuje. When Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears in his original spiritual potency, Sambhavami Atma Mayaya, he is not forced to accept a form made by material nature. Therefore, the Lord is addressed as Ishvara, the controller of Maya. He is not controlled by Maya. When a demon continuously thinks of Krishna because of enmity toward him, he is certainly freed from the sinful reactions of his life. To think of Krishna in any way, in terms of his name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, or anything pertaining to him, is beneficial for everyone. Shrinvatam sva katha Krishna punya shravana kirtana. Thinking of Krishna, hearing the holy name of Krishna, or hearing the pastimes of Krishna, will make one pure, and then he will become a devotee. Our Krishna consciousness movement is therefore trying to introduce this system of somehow or other letting everyone hear the holy name of Krishna and take Krishna's prasad. Thus one will gradually become a devotee, and his life will be successful. The verse one more time. A grassworm confined in a hole of a wall by a bee always thinks of the bee in fear and enmity, and later becomes a bee simply because of such remembrance. Similarly, if the conditioned souls somehow or other think of Krishna, who is Sachitananda Vigraha, they will become free from their sins, whether thinking of him as their worshipable Lord or an enemy. Because of constantly thinking of him, they will regain their spiritual bodies. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghuna Tanvitam Tam Savjivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saha Gana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kaupa Turibhescha Kripa Sindhu Vyayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First I want to ask all the senior Vaishnavas to please bless me so I can speak something. Okay. So today's verses are related with the mechanics, the mechanism of thinking and remembering something and achieving the same nature by thinking of something. We can see that even if a person thinks in enmity of Krishna, he will be purified and achieve either liberation or he'll go back to Godhead in his spiritual form. Whatever you remember through your life, or whatever thoughts you have through your life, will determine what you'll be thinking of at the very moment of death. The thoughts which we have in the very moment of death will direct us to our next body. The mind carries the subtle body to our next body, and thus for what we think at the moment of death is very essential for our future. So we can see that for wherever we're thinking through our life, and for this will determine what we will be thinking at the moment of death. And as we all know, at the moment of death, our mind will carry us to our next body. So it's very, very important to cultivate favorable thoughts for Krishna through our lives. And in that way, we can think of Krishna at the moment of death, which is very, very difficult moment, because your mind is very, very agitated and you cannot think of anything. Yeah, and one may say, well, I will live my life now, and then at the moment of death I will think of Krishna. It's very easy, I'll just remember Krishna at the moment of death. But this is not possible, because whatever we cultivate through our life, for this we will think. Like there is one story. I don't know. Probably you have heard it about a person who was owner of a shop, and he was very attached to his shop. Have you heard this story? Maybe not. And he knew that at the moment of death he should remember Vishnu, so he can go to Vaikuntha. But still he was very attached to his shop, and he said, yeah, I'm going to remember Vishnu at the moment of death, but now I will take care of my business, of my shop. So he was, he was maintaining his shop and everything, and he got old, and the moment came to die. So he went to his deathbed and set his son to take care of the shop, because the shop shouldn't stop working. And he was dying in his house. But the son thought to himself, probably it's a good idea to go and see my father for my last time. It was just the time to pass away. So his son went upstairs, and the old man was trying to think of Vishnu, his son went up there and just opened the door, and the old man, just as he was trying to think of Krishna, he was just raised up his hand and his head and said, "My son, what happened with the shop? Who is in the shop?" He was so attached, and then he passed away. So he tried to cheat Krishna and the material energy, but he got cheated by Krishna. So this is a good story about that. We shouldn't try to cheat Krishna, otherwise we'll cheat ourselves. Yeah. As we all know, the human form of life is very, very rare and very important. Only in the human form of life we can save ourselves from repeated birth and death, and we can go back home, back to Godhead. And we all have heard that even the demigods want to have human form of life, so they can achieve perfection and go back home. So in that connection, there is the story of the turtle in the ocean. Probably you all know this story. It's a good analogy to show how rare is the human form of life. So the story is there is a turtle which is swimming in the vast ocean and comes out once in many years on the surface to take breath, and there is a log floating with a small hole in it. And the possibility of the turtle's head to pass through the hole of that log while coming out for breath is so small that maybe once in a million that can happen. And one even can consider that it's almost impossible to happen. And this is a good analogy to show how rare is the human form of life, and the urgency to utilize this form of life to cultivate thoughts of Krishna and remembering of Krishna, so we can put an end to all of our problems: birth, death, old age, disease. And if we fail to do this, if we're not responsible, if we neglect this, then we'll have to take another birth in the material world. And we don't know what kind of birth we will take in our next lives. As we all know, there are 8,400,000 of forms of evolution that the soul passes through. And if we lose our human form of life now, and then of course for us we're devotees, and maybe for us it's different. But let's say for the other people. But even for devotees, if we don't think of Krishna at the moment of death, I don't know. No, of course Krishna will help us. He'll give us another chance. He's saying in Bhagavad Gita. Anyway, so we have to utilize this form very intelligently by cultivating. The mechanism of changing our bodies, which is determined by our thoughts at the moment of death, is described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, which is called Attaining the Supreme. I'm going to read there 4 verses describing it. So Bhagavad Gita 8:5. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. 8:6. Wherever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duties of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, O Partha, is sure to reach me. So we can see from Krishna's words here that the process of going back to Godhead is very simple. We just have to think of Krishna in the moment of death, and our lives will be successful. And we'll go back home, back to Godhead. Now, I want to read verse 8.6, the purport. I think it's relevant. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he attains without fail. Purport. The process of changing one's nature at the critical moment of death is here explained. A person who at the end of his life quits his body, thinking of Krishna, attains the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. But it is not true that a person who thinks of something other than Krishna attains the same transcendental state. This is a point we should note very carefully. How can one die in the proper state of mind? Maharaj Bharat, although a great personality, thought of a deer at the end of his life, and so in his next life he was transferred into the body of a deer. Although as a deer he remembered his past activities, he had to accept that animal body. Of course, one's thoughts during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. So this life creates one's next life. If in one's present life one lives in the mode of goodness, always thinking of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life. That will help one be transferred to the transcendental nature of Krishna. If one is transcendentally absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental, spiritual, not material. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the best process for successfully changing one's state of being at the end of one's life. So, Srila Prabhupada makes this statement in his purport that one's accumulated thoughts during the course of one's life will influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. In that way, this life creates one's next life. And he gives the example of Bharat Maharaj. I don't know, probably all of you know the story about Bharat Maharaj in 5th canto. He was very advanced devotee, but he was in the forest and he got attached to a deer. The deer lost its mother and it was helpless. So Bharat Maharaj took it and started to take care of it because it was a small deer and it was going to die. So he got attached to the deer, even though he was extremely advanced devotee. And he got a body of a deer in his next life. So this is a good example. Even if you are devotees, we should be careful not to be attached. For example, if one is attached to his family, let's say for his life, and he thinks of his wife. I'm sorry, my English. If one thinks of his wife at the moment of death, most probably he'll have to accept a female body, and the opposite, if a woman thinks of his husband at the moment of death, she will attain a man's body, male body. And as we can see nowadays, many people have their best friends, cats and dogs. If they think of their cat or dog, they would have to take a body of a cat or a dog, which is pretty scary, because you have to go through all these forms of life again, 8 million forms of life, and Kali Yuga is advancing pretty much, so it's just I wouldn't do that. In that connection, I know one. I've heard once in a lecture one proverb from a Chinese philosopher, Chinese monk. Justin should be in ecstasy now. He has some Chinese roots. It's Lao Tzu or something like this. And he has made this statement. He has this realization about thoughts, about thinking, and I thought that it may be relevant. I know that he's impersonalist and voidist and a rascal, but still, I thought that it would be interesting for us. So his proverb is saying like this: watch your thoughts because they will become your words. Watch your words because they will become your actions. Watch your actions because they will become your habits. Watch your habits because they will become your character. Watch your character because it will become your destiny. Did you understand? So it goes from our thoughts to our destiny. So the thoughts are very important, obviously, and our thoughts will determine our words. As we can see, whatever we are thinking of, it manifests in our mouth, in our speaking. We also have heard this about offenses. If one is offensive is in his mind, then it will manifest in his mouth earlier or later. So it's and after that, your words will become your actions. Forever we are speaking, we are thinking. This nature our actions will be determined, and our actions will develop our habits. So we all know that as many times we repeat one action, it becomes like a habit. And then our habits will develop our character. We all know that our character is developed by habits and by particular style of living and acting in this world. And after that, your character will become your destiny. It will determine your destiny. When I saw this word character, I thought about the Vedic style of education. So the Vedic style of education, the brahmachari life, the gurukula, it's not like in modern age focused on information, just gathering information in your head as much as you can, math and biology and chemistry and so on. But it's focused on developing the perfect character of a person. So the children who grow up, they will become with perfect character, perfect gentlemen, and they will have all the good qualities required to go back to Godhead. So this was the main focus of the education in Vedic culture. And if you go to the Gurukula in Mayapur of Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj, you'll see that they are trying to cultivate this, to achieve these results. And the kids there, they're getting up very early in the morning, like 3 o'clock, and doing yagyas, memorize Sanskrit, Vedic hymns, Vedic mantras. Also, they are working, they are cooking, and having different. Some of them are teachers, and they are living this lifestyle. This lifestyle will help them very much to achieve the perfection of life at the end of their lives, to go back home, back to Godhead. I've heard another analogy of this at this point, that the life is like a calculator. All of our thoughts through our lives, and we are pressing the plus button, all of our thoughts. And at the end of the life, at the moment of death, we are pressing the how to say sum button, the equal button, and this will determine all of our thoughts through our life, and this will determine our next body. So we cannot expect that we can thinking of all kinds of nonsense through our life, and then at the moment of death we think of Krishna. It requires serious cultivation, deep absorption in thoughts of Krishna. We should try to cultivate this. And this cultivation happens with hearing and chanting and proper association with the devotees. And by the way, have you heard this story about the Srila Prabhupada? I think in the early days, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, he got some kind of accident, I think a car accident, and he almost died or something. He was like in a coma or something, and he almost died. But he got back, and the other devotees asked him, for what you were they were, curious. And they asked him for what you were thinking at the moment of death, at this very moment. And he said, oh, actually, one TV advertisement popped up in my mind. So we can see that it's not easy to think. It's all these samskaras they're coming out, and it's not easy to think of Krishna. It's just we should absorb ourselves. Yeah, with wherever you're associating, this will form your thoughts, your way of living, your way of thinking. If you associate with, as there is a saying in English, tell me who are your friends, and I'll tell you who are you. So with whoever you associate with wherever you associate, you will become like this. So if we associate with sadhus, with devotees, we will become like them. And if we associate with karmis, with demons, we will become like karmis. Or if we associate with our dog, maybe we become a dog. The best way is to associate with the Hare Krishna mantra, of course. The easiest way for our age to achieve perfection. Yeah. The way to remember Krishna through our lives and at the moment of death is to chant Hare Krishna. Remembering Krishna is not very difficult for one who chants his name. There is no difference between God and God's name. So there is no difference between Krishna and Krishna's name. We heard this many times. And because Krishna is absolute. And at the moment of death, and actually chanting of Krishna equals remembrance of Krishna. Chanting of Krishna's names is the same as remembering Krishna. Of course, focused chanting, not, shnik shnik, giri 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 giri. And we can associate with Krishna only by chanting his names. And this simple meditation fixes our mind on the Supreme Lord. So if we chant regularly and with focus, we'll easily be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. Otherwise, remembering the Supreme Lord will be very difficult, because death is often sudden, and it's frequently is accompanied with disease, pain, unconsciousness. Your mind is very agitated, and it's a very, very difficult moment. You cannot take breath. The time of death is the most disturbing time of our life, and it's not the ideal moment to meditate on something or to focus your mind on something. But the Hare Krishna mantra is very, very good and easy way to do it. And as we all know, this very, very famous verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila 17:21. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasti Eva Nasti Eva Nasti Eva Gatir Anyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other means for self-realization than chanting the holy names of the Lord. Then chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name of Lord Hari. So it is repeated 3 times. So when something is repeated so many times in the Shastra, in the Vedic literature, it means that it's very, very important. It's repeated 3 times to emphasize the importance and that it's essential. So we can see that there are no other means for self-realization in this age, and except the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. So we should become very serious about chanting the holy names. Actually, the perfect standard is 64 rounds per day. Of course, this will be very difficult. Okay. And there is this verse in Bhagavad Gita, which is on the end, like one of the verses that are conclusion. 1865. Man manabhava mat bhakto matyajimam namaskuru mame vaishasi satyam te partijane priyosime. Always think of me Become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage to me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very good friend. So we see that Krishna is saying, always think of him, and thus we will achieve perfection of life and go back. I'm going to just say a few words about the importance of dedicating our last part of our life to cultivating favorable thoughts of Krishna and absorb ourselves, deeply absorb ourselves in hearing and chanting about Krishna. So we all know that according to the Vedic way of living, when one gets 50 years old, he should accept the Vanaprastha stage of life. And Vanaprastha means that one should go in the forest and start doing some tapasya, some austerity. Or in the beginning he can just leave home and travel with his wife to the place of pilgrimage, to the holy places. And then after finishing the pilgrimage, his wife is going back home, where the elder sons will take care of her. Or she can become a widow also. This is another option. And the husband, he's going to the forest and prepare himself for his next life. Cultivate some thoughts, some thoughts for Krishna. And but of course, if a person is attached to his home, this is very difficult to leave his home and his family, his wife, his comfortable home, his beautiful wife, his beautiful children. But still, it is very, very important to do this. Of course, devotional service is much more important. The service of Krishna is much more important than varnashrama and following these things. But if one is attached to his wife, to his family, to his house, and all these comforts, bodily comforts, then better accept Vanaprastha, at least Vanaprastha, because in that way you have a lot of time and dedication to achieve the perfection of life, go back home, back to Godhead. But even better than this is if one can remain brahmachari through his life and not get married and then accept Vanaprastha. It will save so much trouble. Of course, not everyone can do this. After accepting Vanaprastha, some people may accept sannyas also. I found something interesting by Prabhupada, that sannyas is not for everyone, but at least Vanaprastha is good to be considered. Prabhupada is saying that for Brahmanas, Kshatriyas is recommended. For Vaishyas, maybe some of the Vaishyas, but for Shudras it's forbidden, sannyas. So only those who are qualified Brahmanas, they should take sannyas. Prabhupada is saying this on a morning walk. Yeah, well, this is the points I wanted to make. For whatever we are thinking, this will achieve. Even if it's in a fear or enmity, as we have the analogy of the grassworm. This is the mechanism for wherever you're thinking, especially at the moment of death. This you will achieve. So please think of Krishna now and at the moment of death, and go back home, back to Godhead. Chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and cultivate favorable thoughts for Krishna. That's all I wanted to say. If anyone wants to add something or say something or ask something,
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I was looking at the verse, and it says a grassworm confined in a hole, and then he becomes a bee. But what if he's a different species? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, what if it's
If, like, say he was a maggot or something, he's going to come out a fly. He's not going to come out a bee. So that kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. By the way, I tried to find this word grassworm in the dictionary, but I couldn't find it. There is no such word in the English dictionary.
Oh.
So it's probably it's some kind of, I don't know. Biologically, I cannot answer this question.
I mean, you know, one worm's going to become a wasp, one's going to become a hornet, one's going to become a bee, one's going to be a fly. You know, and you know.
Oh yeah, this is analogy. I think that it's analogy.
Yeah, right. I just thought it was, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
I'm a fault finder, I guess.
Oh, it's okay. It's good. The question is that. What was the question that?
Well, you know, I mean, say it was it's going to become a bee anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, you know, there's a natural progression. I mean, you know.
Yes.
No
So your point is that even if it doesn't think all the time of the bee, if this is its species, it will become a bee.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's my understanding, you know. But
yeah.
I think the grassworm turns into the bee biologically. It's by the fear in thinking of the bee that it becomes the bee in its next life, not in the same life.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
okay.
Yeah, but here it's not said anything about next life. It's just later becomes a bee, simply by remembrance. I think this is the analogy that wherever you're remembering through your life, and this will become this. I don't know. It's difficult topic. It's tricky. You want to say something, bro?
I'm still trying to understand what the concern is.
You're trying to understand
here.
the question.
Well, he was thinking that in the verse it's saying that the grassworm like biologically becomes a bee.
Right.
Like that's what happens. Like grassworms become bees.
Okay, like so in the same life form as you're
Yeah,
saying.
he was thinking it was the same life form.
Like a baby becomes a dog or something like that.
Yeah, like a maggot becomes a fly.
Yeah.
But it's different. It's two different species.
Yeah.
And one species meditating on the other species out of fear, and then in its next life it becomes that species.
Yeah, maybe
because
Justin is
it's
right.
absorbed
Yeah.
in enmity, or I mean in fear of that species killing it.
Yeah, but I think he also brought up, he's just probably playing the devil's advocate here. What he's also saying is, well, there are, maybe even by evolution, even without thinking about the bee, I mean, maybe his question is, well, the grassworm, maybe he knows, you know, which species is going to become what next.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, the law of karma is very complicated. For example, yeah, there is the evolutionary cycle, but then, I mean, it's not like so simple. According to the laws of karma, one may have to take birth in the species of a worm, you know, for 50 lifetimes. So, and then become a bee. So anyway, that's complicated. Yeah, I was trying to understand what the concern or question was.
Hare Krishna, bro. Thank you for the class. I want to bring a thought about the quote that you mentioned about this Chinese guy.
Oh, the Chinese?
I like it because it's a confirmation that the Vedic principles are spread all over the world the universe. And they, for example, I remember Hanuman Prasad Swami Maharaj, he told me one time, if you talk about stupid things, you will start to think about stupid things. And if you start to think about stupid things, you will start to do stupid things.
Right.
And he mentioned this based on the Upadesamrita. Bacho vegan, manasa krodha vegan, jiva vegan. So first, I mean, it is almost the same, but it's not the same because you were saying that the process starts with the thought,
the mind,
and the mind, and then the speak. But actually, in our culture, starts from the tongue, Yeah, from the urge to speak.
Yeah.
Or to taste things, and after that the mind, and after that the action. No? So for that reason is mentioned also prajalpa niyamagraha. No? Mm-hmm. We have to avoid prajalpa.
Yes, yeah.
Yes. I mean, if we speak about woman, or even if we hear someone speaking all the time about woman, we will start inevitable to think about woman. Yeah. That's the idea. No, so I like thank you for bringing that.
For the proverb.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking of should I say this, Anyway, the point here was that even if you're thinking of enmity, you become purified and go back to Krishna. This verse. You'll see tomorrow's verse is very interesting also. Okay, Srila Prabhupada, okay?